How you doing, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the In the Paint Show, episode 165. We appreciate everybody joining us once again after our draft party. Seemed like a long time ago. It was 10 days ago. Here with my co-host, Chelsea Hopkins, Umana, as usual. Guys, how are you guys doing? We had some big things happening, and we got some big things coming up.
Yeah, Ronnie, it was everything's been good. Just came back from Orlando, NBPA top 100 camp, which is always really good. This is my 7th year of it, so this is fun to be in. But most importantly, we had a birthday the other day. We had Chelsea, cause it was a birthday. Chelsea, I know she's probably recovering a little bit.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm definitely recovering, Ani. Thank you. Yeah, man, another year around the sun. A little different year for me because I'm like not hooping anymore. So I woke up like happy on my birthday, but like sad because I got some good news the day before about a job I've been waiting on. So I'll have a new career, no more basketball, a year older. So this is going to be a different year for me, but I'm excited and nervous like at the same time.
Yeah, that's good. Excited and nervous. If you weren't nervous, then you'd worry if you weren't a little nervous. That's good to have a little bit of pregame jitters.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're gonna rock it when game time comes. But looking back over the last 10 days, a lot has happened. So we knew the top of the draft what was gonna happen as another NBA season really is about to kick off now as we shoot this the day before the 4th of July. Summer League's about to start, and as a good look back, Chelsea. Our top picks we kind of nailed those. We had some, not necessarily that we agreed with picking those players in that order, but we thought those picks were going to go in that order. And then after that, the first 7, it was like, oh, wow, all kind of stuff happened. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I teased you when we logged off. Like, thank God we ended our show when we did because our draft board kind of went all over the place right after the top 6. But, it was kind of what we predicted. Sure. we knew the top 3 picks were set. We knew that, not necessarily the order, but we knew the 3 guys that were going to be selected. And then after that, we thought, teams could go in all different directions. And I think we kind of saw that after the top 6 picks. But it was a good draft. I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of winners, a lot of losers. And we have a lot to talk about with, the draft and free agency starting shortly after. There's been a lot of movement. Yeah. And exciting stuff in the NBA. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't know how many game changers there are in this draft, obviously, besides the number 1 pick. Maybe there are, the Thompson twins going back to back. That is like, wow. I'm awesome for them, for their family. But I think some people are like, wow, they're just going to see how that plays out. You've got 2 young prospects that are definitely prospects. It doesn't seem like, okay, they made a deep run in the NCAA tournament, or you think that they're this, have a lot of body of work to work with. And that's okay. That's what the draft has kind of become. And like you said, besides the Spurs, I think it's wait and see for many teams. And like you said, the free agency is going to play a big part in that. I just don't see, I think give me one player do you think just might be like second team all rookie, or it's just pretty good, regardless of where they got picked? Did you have one player that, and obviously not the top 6?
I'm actually going to go with Cam Whitmore. Okay. He really slid in the draft.
I know. Yeah.
But, Houston got a steal, in my opinion. And when I just watched this kid play, I'm like, yo, he has some flashes of like being really good. Yeah. And to your point, Ronnie, about like you don't really see necessarily like any game changers. I think the draft has showed us that as years and years and years go on, every draft pretty much has some sleepers or some players that like overachieved per se from where they were selected.
No doubt.
We look at Joker, who was a 2nd round pick. He was a 2nd round pick, and this man is arguably the best player in the league right now. Yeah. So I think when we're in it, the moment, like eye test alone, it's kind of hard to say, okay, like who's going to really be great in this draft. Yeah. But I think, as we continue our show and maybe 5 years from now, you're going to be like, wow, Chelsea, Cam Whitmore was really good, or, maybe another name. So I think that that's kind of just that's just the way it works. You have the people at the top that are pretty predictable. So Wemby is probably going to be as good as advertised, although I do have a couple question marks, as you guys know, but there's going to be somebody that finds a way, that, finds their role niche in this league, and is going to probably be a player that we're going to be talking about years to come. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you have anybody that kind of stands out to you?
Yeah, I saw Cam Whitmore in Mexico on that USA 19 team. He was their best player. So I liked him. I thought he was a top 6 or 7 talent. Again, the medical didn't pan out, or there were some flags. So I like him. I think he's better in this draft, at least as a 20 pick. I think he's much better than that. If I'm looking at later in the draft, Nick Smith, if he can get it together, if he stays with Charlotte and he's a first round pick, so he's going to get the first round money. As a backup guard down the line, I think that could be pretty good, especially they know who they got. Yeah. They know who's in their team. They signed Mallow to a rookie max extension, so they're set. They know they want Brandon Miller to, they're kind of set at those positions. So if he can stick and do a little bit of good there, obviously he's going to have first round money. I think he could be pretty good. He's another guy that kind of slipped because of injuries or his circumstance, and I think he can do pretty good as well. He was looking at the draft, some of the picks that, Juris Walker went 8. Yeah. Casey Wallace, Jed Howard, 10, 11. Grady Dick, maybe even to Toronto, he's going to have some opportunity. He went down a little bit. So that would be pretty interesting and pretty great. Those guys have a great opportunity. I think it's where you said that the opportunity for some guys is just going to be really good, and others, it's just either going to be a position crunch or like the team's just not winning right now. Like that's why I'm a little like, oh boy, Houston, as we talked about Houston a bunch, and Detroit, they got a lot of work to do, and they got 2 players that have a lot of work to do in essence. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. But like I said, with the combination of the draft and NBA free agency, I think Houston is a winner per se right now, based off of the things that we've seen so far. I told you Cam Whitmore is my sleeper, but the main thing that team needed was leadership. So, I've seen them make some moves that I feel is going to make them competitive. Now, are they going to be a really formidable team in the West? Probably not, but I've seen them make some strides, to be something down the line, under new leadership with the coach, new vet leadership in the locker room. They moved a couple of their young guys around, added some pieces. So I can see some positive things, from them in the future. As far as Houston goes, I don't know what you think about this, Ani, but I like what they did in the draft, but their team's still just going to be sorry. Like, I really just can't see it. And I'm a huge Brandon Miller fan, and I'm a Nick Smith fan as well. But when I just look at their pieces, I don't understand really the direction of the team. So, Ani, what are your thoughts on kind of what Charlotte has done up until this point?
Well, speaking with Charlotte, I mean, they're just going to be mediocre to bad. I mean, they're in a rebuilding stage, right? So, like, they're not in a situation where they're trying to, compete for a playoff spot or a title, in my opinion. They're in a position where they're still trying to gain access. I mean, gain some players, to build upon. With LaMelo, can he finally be healthy for a whole season, and seeing where that is. Brandon Miller is going to take a little bit of time. Probably get into that 24 draft, get a high draft pick, and then, just continue to get, players to kind of build on. I mean, they're in a rebuilding stage. They did the qualifying offer for Miles Bridges. He's going to be a free agent next year. Yeah. There's a new direction, obviously, ownership, everything like that. So it's going to take some time for Charlotte, in my opinion. I don't think they're in any rush to really contend for a title or contend for a playoff spot. So to me, it's like Brandon Miller got a hit, healthy LaMelo. Let's see what Nick Smith becomes. Get a good draft pick in 24, and then we can kind of see like, okay, what was the direction? I kind of like him more than Houston, in my opinion, for a long term. So for this reason, is like for Houston, who's your superstar? You just committed $40 million a year to Fred VanVleet, right? Mm-hmm. Like, yes, right now you're better, but like, what? Again, we look at Denver. We know who the guy is. We look at Miami. We look at all these teams. We know who the superstar is. When you're committing so much money to guys, and there's really not a clear who is my dude, then you just fall into the mediocrity trail. Then it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to be a 7, 8, 6 seed. Cool. Like, is that what you want to be for the next 5 years? Fine. Like, for Charlotte, it's like if you hit on some really high level draft picks, and you got some guys that they're going to be all-stars to be one or two like level guys for like championship contenders, then you can build role players around them and then actually contend for a title. Houston, who is that? Is that Sengun? Is he going to take the next step? People did say that he's going to grow. Could be, but I think Charlotte, at least from my mindset, is like, how can I win a title? Not how can I make the playoffs?
Yeah.
So if I know I got my guys that can help me contend, great. I just think Houston has guys that, I can get to the playoffs every year. But who's going to be that superstar, my second tier guy to help me win it?
So let me ask you this, Ronnie, just to kind of piggyback off of what Ani's saying. Do you think, Jalen Green was recently on Paul George's podcast? They're, shooting it. Paul George is asking him questions, and he recently asked him about maybe James Harden returning to Houston. And Jalen Green's response was, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. So he was kind of alluding to, would it maybe stunt his growth as, the man in Houston, or, something along those lines. So now, Ani, you're talking about how they acquired Fred VanVleet, they acquired Dylan Brooks, they gave all these money to these guys. What is the timeline for Houston, though? You talk about them, making the playoffs or whatever. They haven't made the playoffs for the last several years. So I think that you have to kind of make the playoffs before you can have a chance to contend. And just to Jalen Green's point, do you think that acquiring these big names is going to change things? Like, I'm just kind of wondering what you think, Ronnie.
I think it'll change it a little bit. Yeah. And I'd look at it to teams like this. What do you do when you rebuild now with the play-in? If the Lakers and Heat can do it, then you can kind of have some momentum and be like, if we can get to the 7th spot or whatnot, we can make a run if you believe in your pieces, or make another move at right before the trade deadline. So I do think Houston is going to get better. I think Ani's looking at it like, can they really win it? And I understand what he's getting at. They're not going to win right now,
right.
They're not going to win it. And will that combination of players win it? And sometimes, I don't know, like, I like the leadership. We always talk about mentorship and leadership in the NBA a lot, but like sometimes I think, like, you're a professional, like, get it done. You're not good enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't hear about like, I get it. Some cultures are better than others. Some teams are run better than others. We get that. But like at the end of the day, adding Chris Paul, adding these guys, sometimes it doesn't. So honestly, don't mean shit to me. They're just not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, Houston's not good enough right now, and they're in Charlotte's not either in the win. So like you said, build slowly, do the right thing. I think Houston's got their players are just, as they shown the last year or two, just not mature. They're just not mature. You know what I mean? Like, for whatever reason, they're not mature. That's where they need to grow. And maybe that's bringing in an outside piece. I think, it'd be very interesting. I'm changing the subject a little bit to see what Detroit does because Monty Williams is so respected. He had a veteran team in Phoenix. So is Detroit going to like take a big jump up? We'll see. They're paying him a lot of money to take a jump up. But I want to ask you guys a question about Charlotte, going back to Charlotte. Melo Ball got the max extension. He's a really good player. I don't know how great he is. He's really good. Is he great, like franchise altering? I don't know. We will let one of you guys answer that. But that stadium, that Charlotte used to draw 20,000 fans all the time. But it seems like they have a lot of issues now. Is that just because something changed? Do you guys think that's ownership? Like, in other words, when they had a contending team and they were nowhere near the title, I think to Ani's point, like, when they had Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, that group. They were young. Then Larry Johnson hurt his back, but they weren't in title contention. They weren't going to beat the Bulls, the Jordan's Bulls, but they were packing out the arena. What's changed in some of these teams, especially like Charlotte? Is that just, ownership? They were bad, mediocre for so long. They moved to New Orleans. They came back. People don't know. Are they the Pelicans, Charlotte? Are they the Hornets? Is that where they lost their momentum, or is it just bad drafting and bad moves?
I just think it's bad drafting, bad moves. You're not putting a product out there for people to get excited about. I mean, LaMelo is exciting. I think LaMelo was kind of bringing some excitement to fans and people want to come see him. I mean, especially the flair with his passes and everything like that and a rookie. Sure. But they're just bad. Like, I mean, they done a bad job putting teams together. They just done a really bad job. Like, no one wants to see a bad team, like, at all. So I think that's more so Charlotte's problem. They just been treading the mediocrity trail for so long that it's just like, I thought LaMelo brought some excitement back, but obviously he hasn't really stayed healthy this past season. So if I'm a fan of Charlotte, why would I go see the Hornets if LaMelo's not playing and we're already horrible?
Yeah.
And I think that's just been going on the past couple years. They just, like, before LaMelo, who was the best player?
Boy, it's been a while. Like, where you turn on the TV and be like, I'm going to watch a Hornets game. They're not on TNT very often, if at all. They haven't had a franchise-changing player, really. They go back some years, And then, obviously, with Hurricane Katrina and then the Pelicans moving and having the team having to move and then move again back, they don't have no momentum. But this could be a positive momentum if he stays healthy. So, speaking of the health, let's talk about the Bulls for a quick second. The Bulls are trying to get a health exception or a waiver for half of Lonzo Ball's salary, which would be about $10 million. So, we talk about the Ball brothers. It's just, where does Lonzo go from here? Just wait it out and come back and hopefully be strong. I mean, just talking to people, obviously he's a Southern California guy. It just doesn't seem to be a lot of hope and optimism that, forget the number 2 pick. He's not going to be your highest productive number 2 pick around, and but just to get back to being a everyday starter, everyday player. What do you guys think?
I don't see it in the cards.
Yeah.
It's super sad, but they haven't really been able to figure out like what's the issue with him. And I just feel like our technology and stuff is so advanced, like these days, if they haven't been able to figure out any type of solution until this point, like, I just don't think that there will be one. And it's unfortunate because Lonzo is, super talented, and when right, he can be very impactful on any team.
Right.
But how many years has it been now? Like, well, he sat out all of last season. He's predicted to sit out all of this season. He sat out a chunk of the previous season before that. So, I really just don't see it. And it's unfortunate, but I understand where the Bulls are coming from. Is like, dang, we went all in on this guy. And, we need to get something to try to make our team be formidable, and their team was right there on the cusp. Look at the Bulls. They were in the playing game. If they would have had Lonzo, we can make an argument that they could have been the Miami Heat and made a deep run into the playoffs. But it's not looking good.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I mean, unless something comes back where he can play like half a season or then maybe be healthy for the playoffs, like, because Lonzo's really talented. I mean, people forget even when he first got with the Bulls how good they were. Like, of the defense and offense, like they were really good with him. And so I understand with them, like you want to get some money back to get a free agent, or to take some money, a contract in for a trade using that exception. But man, it's just I don't know what that looks like 2 years from now. Can Lonzo play 30 to 40 games and be reliable for the playoffs? Wow. I don't know. If you're telling me, you're asking me, can he do more than that going forward? No.
Wow, you can't rely on that much more than that going forward.
Yeah,
and I think he's a young man. He's a young man. He graduated high school in 2016. I guess in basketball terms, that seems like a really long time ago. Like years are just going by. it's almost going to be 224. It's like, wow, almost 8 years ago. But yeah, it's going by, and you're at a crossroads. You know, many people's careers are at a crossroads. I guess the biggest crossroads, and an older player, but he could still have a lot of time left, is the Portland Trail Blazers' Damian Lillard. So, which has kind of like been the big news of free agency. Nothing's happened yet, but he's been reported that, you know, he wants to move out of Portland. So my thing is, it's kind of in that no man's land you guys are talking about. Portland could have made a push, say, hey, Dame, we're going to play you, 40 minutes a night for the rest of the 20 or 30 games of the season. We'll try to get into the 8th or 9th spot. And like you said, Chelsea, maybe they're the Miami Heat of the West, who knows? Probably not, but you make a try, like, you kind of like the Lakers did. They made that push, and I think for whatever reason they decided the other way. We're going to shut him down, or he's going to minimize his mileage. Well, then should they have moved him at the break? Are they, oh no, you couldn't do that. Everybody be up in arms, or now he doesn't want to play. But it seems like, to me, for Portland's standpoint, like it happened at the bad timing, I would say. They signed a player to a big contract right before that announcement. So, Ani, give your take, and then Chelsea, go ahead and give your take.
Chelsea, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm very glad that this happened, for one, because I've been saying, like, get rid of him or Dame needs to move on. So I will say, Dame preaches all this, loyalty, schmoyalty, and that's great and very respectable. But now Portland has come out and said they are not going to accommodate Dame. Previously, it's, oh, we love Dame so much. If he didn't want to stay, we'll try to help him, blah, blah, blah. So now they draft Scoot Henderson, which I knew wasn't going to move Dame at all. They give Jeremy Grant a ridiculous contract. I'm sorry, like, great player, but for a guy who has not sniffed All NBA or All-Star, I thought that was an overpay. And now Dame wants to leave. It's been reported that he wanted to go to Miami, and it's been reported by Portland's management that we are not going to just accommodate Dame. We are going to get the best available package, in which Dame could end up pretty much anywhere. So they needed to move on, and Dame needed to move on a long time ago, because this was inevitable, and everybody saw the writing on the wall. This little number 3 draft pick was not going to change anything or make that team a contender. So I just feel like now we're at this point where what should have been done, is being, is having to happen now. And we don't know where Dame's going to end up. Portland is not going to be a good team. And here we are. So I don't know, Ani. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was always had the feeling that you traded Dame before the trade request, in my opinion, because now with the request, the leverage is kind of taken away from you, right? Like a little bit. Like, you're not just going to trade him for anything. But I felt that there's probably was a little bit more value like last year than this year. But they should have been done. Like, I'm big on, like, if you're just going to be a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th seed and you really don't have the pieces to contend, you need to just start all over. I'm big on that. Like, unless you're a young team and you're building up, like OKC Thunder, for example. Like, Portland had a team that was at best an 8th seed that was going to lose in the first round.
Yeah.
Cut your losses, because you're going to be that next year and the following year, and you never would be in the lottery. So, yeah, it should have just happened. It should have happened. I mean, we all know this is a business. I do applaud Portland, for one, for trying to stay loyal with Dame, giving him the contract, want to stay with him. I get it. Like, it's still a business, but there was still, like, Dame wanted to be there. He truly wanted to be there, and they wanted to do what they could best. It's hard because, Portland's not a big-time free agent city. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. So I do applaud them for that, but they should have traded him last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I'm big on the leverage, having the leverage to get the maximum back, and they just have a little bit less now. And, with Miami, it's just going to be the Blazers want Tyler Hero, but they want is it going to be some sort of 3-team trade? Is to satisfy what Portland feels like they can get for the player that they have, with the caliber of player that they're giving up, or is it straight up, or is he going to veto? He can veto the trade, right? He has a no trade clause. But you're saying you want out, so what does that mean? If you have a no trade clause, but you want to get traded, I don't know, Ani, what does that mean? You know what I mean?
I mean, you want to get traded to where you want to be traded, but it still got to make sense.
Yeah.
It's still the trade still got to make sense. And okay, Portland
and make sense for both teams. Yeah.
Right. Portland, you want Tyler Hero. Okay, now Tyler Hero, Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons. 3 guys that have to have the ball in their hands.
Yeah.
Probably going to be one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Not saying they're all bad defenders, but that's small. That's a small lineup. So how do you make that work? You're just a worse version of when you had Dame.
Absolutely.
I think when you we talk about Miami and they've done really well lately. Obviously had their run last year. So be honest with you, Jimmy Butler is awesome, but he ain't beating Denver, even if they get in the playoffs next year. What he does is not going to beat Denver.
Right.
He'd have to score 40 points in 6 finals games. Like, you know what I mean? He'd have to have a monster series to beat them. So now let's say they do get Dame Lillard and they keep Butler in their core, Bam Adebayo. You don't know what that creates. What type of player is Dame now? Like, in other words, is he still a 30-point-a-game guy? You don't know because he's never been in that situation. We know he's a good talent, but what player are you getting? Like, in a 7-game series in a conference final or final that matters, does he still have that same impact? Obviously, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but you don't exactly know what he's going to do on a 60-win contending team where the dynamics is. How does that change Butler? Does that make him less effective? I don't know. You don't, like you said, Ani, when you have certain guys that are, demanding the ball or a lot of guards, you don't know what that does. So I still even have some reservations of what, like you said, he's been awesome in Portland. Does that mean he's awesome on a 60-win team somewhere else?
Right.
I think he's going to be good, but is he one of the, like Chelsea would say, first or second team all NBA, or does he have to adjust his game at this time in his career and this age? Maybe you guys think no. Maybe you guys think he does.
I think that Dame would still be Dame. And when I look at the dynamic of Miami, I think he fits right in with just their culture and what they're doing. I will say, just a little sidebar, I am not doing a package with Damian Lillard if it does not include like Bam Adebayo, which I know Miami would do. They would never do it, but I don't want a package, Ani, of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and 2 second-round picks. That was the package that I originally heard. That's terrible. Why would I do that if I'm Portland? Like, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson virtually do the same thing. Tyler Hero's a better version. Second-round picks, it may or may not even stick on the team. So I wouldn't do that package. And I know Miami's not going to give up Bam, so I really don't see this happening anyway, but let's just speak hypothetically. Dame is going to fit in with them because Jimmy Butler, when I look at him, he is a player that's game is predicated off of hustle. I really think that he can impact games without necessarily having to have the ball, in his hands so much. He's going to get it done on the defensive end. He's a dog. He's going to make big plays. And Dame is still going to be able to be Dame. I feel like they actually fit really good together, dynamic-wise. Same with Bam. Bam is a player that's going to get you 20 points. You don't really run a whole bunch of offense through him per se because he's not like, some like super skilled offensive player. I think if they were to get Dame and maybe add a center, because I would like to see Bam, they play small ball a lot with Bam at the 5. I would like them to see Bam to move to the stretch 4 position because I feel like he'd be more effective there, even though he's not like going to shoot a whole bunch of shots. And add a center, and I think that would be very formidable. With Heat's combination of their culture, combination of having an amazing coach in Eric Spoelstra, I think that they would definitely be in contention. But I really just do not see it happening. I would not take that terrible package if I am the Portland Trail Blazers. I really see there's other teams that have better pieces to offer. I look at the 76ers, which is on a short list. To acquire Dame. They didn't extend Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey is really good. You know, if 76ers were to give Portland a call and say Maxey's on the table, I feel like they would listen.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What do you think, Ani?
Yeah. I mean, Miami, if Dame were to go there, it'd be fine. I mean, they would contend. Jimmy, what we saw in the finals, in my opinion, is, you know, Jimmy does have a degenerate, I think it's his knees, right? Like, I think he had to do so much early on in the playoffs, and then he got to the finals, and it was just like, that was it. So I think Dame at least some of the pressure to have to score as much that he had to do in the first 3 rounds. If I'm Portland, like, you got to get young pieces. So, like, okay, like Tyler Hero, you're gonna do it cool. Duncan Robinson, you're gonna do it cool. Maybe it's trade assets for something later on. You get you some first round picks. I would probably get like Naismith, my man, and Jovic. I get some young guys in there. Like, get some young talented guys that the Heat are invested in to add to what you got that you can build on. Like, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of like, when Memphis traded Pau Gasol, you know, to LA, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a horrible trade." Well, people forget Marc Gasol was in that trade, and Marc Gasol turned out really good. I think if you're Portland, you need to go get a young guy that really has a high upside out of there, that the Heat, and you know the Heat are grooming them, and get you about 1 or 2 of those, and maybe initially it looks like a bad trade, but 2-3 years from now it's like, oh shit, that guy was in the trade. Like, now he's a 15-point per game scorer. Like, you got it, and you probably gonna have to get a third team involved to get your first round pick assets that you want. But in all that, I'm just saying, like, it will work if Dame goes to Heat. I think they could win a title. But I do think if you're Portland, you have to get some young guys that maybe it doesn't look good now because you picked them up for Dame, but it looks good later. Get some first round picks, and then get some guys that can kind of still help you now stay competitive.
Wait, but real quick, Ani, teams have not shown the ability to develop certain players like Miami has. So just because I'm Portland and I'm taking players that Miami is grooming to make better, and do I have the ability in Portland to really make those players better, or as if they would have stayed in Miami? We know Miami does that. They pick up these undrafted guys, they develop them, they get them ready. So when you talk about that package, I really feel what you're saying, but is Portland going to invest in these young people like Miami does?
Well,
I think it would work.
Well, I think if you're trading Dame, you're getting away from trying to contend or trying to be a playoff contender. Okay. So if you're in a rebuilding stage, rebuilding is all about development, right? So for me, it's like, if I'm going to rebuild, then I got to develop my young guys. So I don't think they have a choice unless you want to be in a rebuilding stage for 10 more years. Like, I mean, like.
Ani, just to piggyback your point, I think the bottom line is Scoot Henderson is going to have to hit, because the franchise is going to feel like they don't have much hope when the fans show up and Damian Lillard's not there next fall, or let's say the first game, and the team's not that good. But if Scoot kind of shows flashes and gets off to a good start, I think they may, warm up kind of like Melo in Charlotte. But if he doesn't, if he's like a little bit struggling, boy, that team's, like you said, it's going to be dormant. Like, they're not going to have any hope. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they had hope with Lillard or something to, something to hang their hat on. Like, hey, I want to go to a Portland Trail Blazers game. We have a chance to win. We can get in the playoffs. Whoa, that type of thing. But without him, it's like, you better get some pieces, or Scoot Henderson better be really dynamic. Like, wow, like John Morant type player. You know what I mean? Or else it's going to be a long haul. They're going to have a long road. So, it's a long road. We'll see what happens. I just think the timing of it was a little odd to our original point, and it hurts Portland and what they're going to get back. I like you said, if they would have traded him at the deadline or traded him last year, and is he 32 or 33? Yeah, he's about 32 or 33 years old. So, we're going to follow it. It's going to be interesting. Besides, I guess, Chelsea, you seen Victor Wembanyama, and I'm sure it's going to be a hot ticket. What are you looking forward to the most about the NBA Summer League?
I honestly, I'm not into Summer League as much as I used to be. Years ago I used to go a lot. I thought it was really exciting. Now they done made the prices of summer league like I'm going to watch the Lakers play. It's ridiculous. It's super expensive, but I'm gonna get in there anyway. I have my Vegas connection, so I'll probably have a chance to watch. But it's always good to just see the young talent. I really want to see the Thompson twins. I've seen so many highlights of them just on social media. Wemby, I already know is going to be a freak, but that's just expected. So, I kind of want to see how the Thompson twins are going to be. I'm interested to see, let's see, what other player do I really, my players that I picked are all doing summer league. The ones that I thought were sleepers. Maxwell Lewis is going to play for the Lakers. Julian Strother is going to play for Denver. So just guys that, I really had an eye on when we did our draft show. You're going to have an opportunity to see everybody, and it's all under one roof. And that's the cool thing, that you're able to walk back and forth from Thomas and Mack to the Cox Pavilion and just and check out the young talent. So I'll definitely get out there. I don't have like one player that's just must see. I'm just going to check out all the guys that I had my eye on draft day and see how it goes. What about you, Ani?
Yeah, for me, it's obviously be watching those Texas guys like Anthony Black and Orlando, Cason Wallace and OKC. It's Keontae that's at Utah, even Jalen Wilson, like those guys. Like I'm interested to see how those guys pan out. I like the Thompson twins. Really like to see just progressions on their jump shooting, their athleticism. Just kind of how it translates in the NBA game. And like what is the prototype that probably the long term what that looks like is more of that. It's more of that what we've seen in the high school realm, and then seeing how they progress, and like and I'm interested to see the guys that were like the second round picks that was like, oh shit, he was a steal. You know what I mean? Like we saw some last year. We're gonna see it again this year. That's what I'm excited about. Like the guys that are, oh man, he was a steal. He was a second round steal. And some of the guys that are probably like a little bit older that, they're going to perform well and they have a chance to make the NBA, like an NBA roster. Like I remember Justin Jackson last year when we saw him play in there and he did really good. I'm interested in those type of things. Like who are guys that are going to be able to fill out a roster? What parts of these guys' games are going to translate? Who are some second round steals? Because then we can come back on the show next year and do this all over again.
Yeah, I'm interested. A little like you said, some of those guys. Isaiah Wong is, late second round pick, 55 Pacers. Want to see him if he's out there. Amani Bates, is he on the Cleveland team?
Yeah.
Amani Bates, is he going to kind of like you said? How does he fit in? Does he got picked 49? You got Amari Bailey. I did kind of interesting. One pick after Maxwell Lewis. So you went to Denver, as you guys said, at 40. And our special guest on the draft show 10 days ago, Jordan Walsh. Yeah. He got picked up. And do they stick, Ani? Do some of these guys stick? Some are going to do better than others, obviously. I just want to see a guy like last year it was Tari Eason. I think all three of us were watching. And we're like, this guy's pretty good. He's going to pretty good value at it where he got picked for the Rockets. So hopefully that we'll see a couple guys like that, but it'll be interesting. It's going to be a lot of things going on in Vegas in the next, let's say 10 or 15 days. Ani, we got Summer League. We got some TV games on, I believe, that Monday, which would be, is that the 13, 14, 15, 16? I'm losing my track of my days, but that Monday there's going to be some TV. And then we have 2 live days, right? 2 days coaches can come out. And then a dead day. So that takes us all the way to like the 16th. And then the 17th is the Summer League Championship.
Yeah.
So, Ani, where are you going to be in the next 10 days? Just give us a rundown, grassroots-wise, and then coming to the Summer League and then finishing it at Summer League.
What's today? The 3rd. So,
yeah, it's like it's a bit in a row. Yeah.
So I'll be in Houston for New Balance. So I'm going to stay in. I'm just – a little less travel I need. Like, I don't need to be traveling.
Yeah.
So I'll be at Houston for New Balance, probably could do the Gasso, like on that Sunday. Then that following week, I literally fly into Vegas from the 13th through the 17th. That'll be fun. You got the Synergy event with Adidas and Under Armour, kind of cross-brand type matchup. I know there's going to be some other stuff. Dinos is he doing something?
Yeah, he may be doing something in LA. Then you got Gary Charles in the big time.
Yeah,
There's some TV games.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in Houston, I'll be with Jim Hicks. He's running his event in Houston. So that Vegas, I gotta speak at a conference on the 14th. So you know,
That's good.
like it's going.
People, yeah.
Yeah, the
That's
17th
good.
gonna be a blur. Like I'm gonna be so happy when the 17th comes. Like I'm gonna be like, okay, I can sit down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're traveling all over, trying to watch as much as we can. So let's take a little step back. The Scholastic going into July. You know, but obviously we prepped up for the draft. Thanks everybody who tuned in and who's continuing to tune in. Episode 165. Please tell other people about it. Like, subscribe. Make sure to hit the like button and tell others about it. But the Scholastic was good. It seems 2 weeks. Obviously, you had the Georgia one, and Cali Live was live. There was 190 coaches from all levels there. The first June weekend, and then we had the draft show that Thursday, and then the second one was Section 7 and TABC. And Ani, you were at TABC. 400 teams. That's just a huge amount of teams. Obviously, a couple players I imagine on most of the teams, but there's something for everybody. Even if you're a small college, junior college,
Right.
Try to find something. And for Section 7, it's high end at the top, and then there's like 165 teams. That's a lot of teams. So 400 is a really lot. But just tell me in highline, how does Scholastic and the 2 weekends and the teams that are, the programs that get something really good out of it and the scouts, how does that change like the viewing periods of we're going into Peach Jam? We haven't even talked about Peach Jam. Going into Peach Jam and then going into these July. What has changed that now? What in the highline?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like just a change regards like even the summer ball, like when the June events arrive, there's not a lot of AAU teams shut down in June for the most part. Just in from that aspect, there's a lot of changes. Coaches, they get to see these kids in different roles. Like you got to probably see at Section 7. I mean, guys like Josiah Mosley at TABC, he blew up. He got like Texas, Oklahoma State, like everybody just offered all these hot majors.
Wow.
Nick Cody, Alabama offered. There's guys like Tyron Mason picked up from Plano, picked up like 5 offers from TABC. So coaches get to see guys in different roles. And so now it puts it, okay, I got to see him in April do this, right? Yeah. Now I get to see like, okay, maybe he's more of a spot up role, or maybe plays a third or fourth scoring type role. Then I get to see him with his high school team and he's the number 1 guy. Or he's number 2 guy. So now we get to see more of the handle, the shot creation, the playmaking. So I think that's it's a good blend. Like I think the June viewing periods are providing a good blend to the high school to the college coaches to see what they're actually getting. But I also say that with the high school viewing periods, it also helps coaches set up for what they want to see in July. Yeah, I think now it's not okay. We seen this kid in April, he did good. But you don't see him in May or June. So you don't know how the hell he's been playing, but you're going to see a kid based on what you saw in April. Now you're going to go see a kid what you saw like 2-3 weeks ago, which I think is different. And I think that it is better. And it puts more kids on the radar. I think the June viewing period has helped a lot of kids, even if they don't get an offer. I don't think even if they don't get an offer, it allows coaches to, okay, I want to see you in July. Just do your thing in July and you're good. It's like a setup. So I think that's what changed. AU programs kind of shut down some during the June period. I think it allows coaches to see players in a different light, and it allows coaches to be more organized of what they're going to see going into July.
Gotcha. And that's the last part I wanted to bring up, the organization. That's what I kind of gather at it. The coaches are not just like scrambling gym to gym in July. Like, okay, obviously the assistant has the schedule and the head guy's like, okay, where are we going? And it's a little more organized. Either we're going to lock in on this guy and try to get a commitment from him, or they're not just starting from, okay, we have 5 or 6 targets we want to hit. They have an idea now who they're trying to get as their number 1 target. It seems like that would help June. That's what June did a lot, especially for the guys that played both weeks, were able to play both weekends. That helped out a lot of California players because obviously last year there was no Cali Live, so not every team went to Section 7. This year there was about 64 teams from California that went to Section 7, which is still the largest group, still larger than Arizona, still larger than obviously New Mexico or any other. There's still so many teams, but the coaches were able to get a good idea of what they're going to do now. And like you said, in July, be more organized a little bit and lock in on the guys they want. And I think they have a better idea of, like you said, of who they're recruiting. A lot of guys got a lot of offers. I guess me and you could run them down, some of them, but that's basically what June did. I think it's here to stay, obviously, now, and I think the coaches like it. They like the fact that maybe there's a little less of, hey, this kid changed teams at the last minute. He's not at this event. He's not on Under Armour no more. He's with 3SSB, or he's at, independent team. So it's a little more locked into where they're going to play, and the scheduling is a little more tighter, and the brackets are, played through. Obviously you want to get through Sunday and win your divisional championship. And I'll run down some of the players that did good at Cali Live and or Section 7, a few that did really well, and one team that did want a division at both, which I'm sure that helped them a lot. And that is Archbishop Mitty of Northern California. Gavin Rip, excellent student, 6'7", 224. Now he's getting, he has a high academic profile, guys. So he's like, Ivy League is on him. Montana schools are jumping in that, and he just got to see him good because like I said, his team won in a divisional championship in both. St. John Bosco won one of the big divisions at Section 7 Slam bracket. It was sponsored by Slam. Columbus of Florida was there with Caden and Cam, as everybody knows. Those two big names of high school basketball. They just rolled through their division. I mean,
they did.
Oh, let me just tell you the scores. Pretty good teams. This is the top division at Section 7, Power 8 division. Okay, they beat De La Salle 70-31.
Oh
they
my
beat
God.
Park Center, Minnesota, who our guy Roger talks about being really good. It's 87-55. I mean, it just
wow.
And then in the semifinal, Centennial, who's the defending champion of Section 7, they beat them 71-41 in the semifinal, 30-point game. So finally, we get the final. Harvard Westlake, the champions, top 15 team in the Fab 50 last year, made it to the final. They were the Open champions in California. It's pretty closer. They got it within 4, but 75-60. So 75-60 final. Columbus wins that division. Cam Boozer, double every game, dominant. So me and John Stover are talking about it, and he's like, Ronnie, all those great players you're talking about, we talk about some of the older classes, and he's like, he's just as good as those guys. I'm like, okay, I go with you, he's proving it. So it was just kind of like a coronation for them, really. And like I said, Bosco, I think LZ Harrington had a great matchup with Braden Burries, two of the better guys in 225. Yeah. Bosco came out on top, 63-60 in the final. And in Section 7, Salesian had beat Harvard Westlake, the team that made it to the final at Section 7. Salesian from Northern California. They had a lot of players that helped themselves. So they actually met up in a rematch. Salesian opened with Oak Ridge, Florida. So Oak Ridge won, the GHSA won the week before. So this just show you how strong that bracket was. Those two teams met up in the first round. So the champion of Section Cali Live and the champion of the GHSA, which was a Florida team, met in the first round. So Salesian won 77-71. And then Salesian played Harvard Westlake in the quarterfinal, and that was the Cali Live rematch of that final. And Salesian had won, but Harvard Westlake was really fired up and won the rematch. So Aaron Claytor, a guard who's originally from Hawaii, he did really well for Salesian, really helped himself. He's got some really good offers. And that's really what it's about, Ani. But, I mean, that's kind of like I think what I learned from that overall, my main takeaway is that the teams that really helped their players. Obviously, there's some sleepers. The biggest sleeper, I would say, was Jalen Holland from Los Lunas, New Mexico, which I didn't know too much about. Again, Los Lunas, New Mexico. I don't even know how big that town is. 6'4", 225 shooting guard. 32 points per game average in his Section 7 games. Now he has offers at Section 7. He was offered by Missouri, Washington State, and TCU. And I know a couple colleges were like, please. I was like, they're like, please hope no colleges come to watch this game. One coach was like, let them stay over there on the main court. Let hope everybody watches the Boozers. Just stay there. They have no chance to get the Boozers. Just watch the Boozers. And it's like a couple colleges trickled over. And by the end of the event, he had like Washington State and a few offers. And that's really what it's all about. Like, awesome for that kid. His name, again, is Jalen Holland. So, yeah, that was like you said, Ani, a great thing for those type of kids, especially if you're coming from New Mexico or from a small high school and you do really well. That's really what the event is all about. And so that was the takeaway. And then my second takeaway, and Ani, you can tell me if this is accurate down on what you saw in Orlando. Like, Hayden Boozer's getting really good. A year ago, I was like, he's Carlos, he's Cameron's brother. He's their package deal. Like, he dominated the guards at Section 7. He's getting really good. So I don't know if you have the same sentiments.
Yeah, he wasn't great in NBA top in Orlando. But I was talking to my man Brandon Jenkins. I thought he's getting better. Like, I saw him in Dallas. Yeah, I saw him in Atlanta for the EYBL. He was really good. So I didn't use this as like, oh, he sucks, right? But but like, when I was talking to Brandon Jenkins, we talked about like, when guys don't do very good at NBA, like especially in camp settings, I don't like hold it so much against them. Maybe they just need to be more in the system, right? If you do really good, yeah, you're really good. But like, some guys aren't camp guys, and I felt like he couldn't really get in a groove. But it wasn't because he's not good enough. I just don't think he's not a camp guy.
No, yeah, I understand.
That's how I feel about him. But to your statement, I felt like in late April, I was like, oh, he's gotten a lot better. He's really good. Like, he's a high guard.
He's a high major guard.
But Orlando, he didn't do that. But luckily, I got enough of a sample size of really good play in more better, in like a bit more controlled environment. Sure. He's a high major player. So I agree with what you're saying. He just didn't really do that in Orlando.
Got it. Understood. The Jalen Holland story. Is there anybody like that from TABC or the week before that like kind of came out of nowhere and got an offer, or like a significant offer?
Yeah, I would say definitely like KJ Thomas, who's at what's it called, Canyon Randall. Really didn't have much. Now all of a sudden it was like UTEP, La Tech. Like he had like 4 or 5 offers. to Mario Dennis, same thing. Veterans Memorial, San Antonio, I believe. Yeah, he gained like Corpus Christi, like not McNeese, like Corpus, like all the Southland and Sunbelt and WAC schools offered. Tyron Mason, what I talked about from Plano, same thing, just kind of blew up and got a lot of offers. And he only had like a niece in UTA at first. So there was a couple guys that just, and I said it before to coaches. I said, there's some guys you really haven't seen, or there's some guys that got to kind of break themselves away from the pack because everyone's just kind of in this little circle that need to just blow up. And I thought Tyron Mason, I thought KJ Thomas, I thought Daniel Thomas from Dallas Carter, Clarence Paye from Beaumont United. Those guys started separating themselves from all the low to mid-major pack of guys that we have in the state, and they became more priorities and targets for college coaches. So yeah, we had a couple. I would say there was about like those guys, and maybe missing some others that really helped themselves, got a lot of offers after TABC.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great. I mean, we'll see some guys getting some more looks in July, but yeah, I think to your point, June has really helped out a lot of people. So let's go back to NBA players. Obviously, we saw the highlights. Our guy Jimmy Hicks is always trying to play matchmaker. Cam, Boozer and Cooper Flagg go at it. Give us the lowdown on that, and then the top 3 to 5 guys at the camp.
Okay, yeah, this will be fun. So I was that first game, like right off the bat. And Jimmy wants to send a little text message saying, "Who do y'all want to see?"
Jimmy, who do you think we want to see?
Right.
That's funny.
So it was a good matchup. I would say, if we want to say who won the matchup, Cam Boozer. Cam had like 24 points, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks. Showed his inside out scoring. He's just such a beast in the paint. Like, he's so strong. He can shoot. He has hella feel. Outlet passes are great. He just showed everything. Cooper was good. Like, one thing about Coop is he plays so hard and he goes for every rebound and block. But even when the shot isn't on, and it wasn't on, I don't think he shot it well. I think he was like 4 for 14 from the field or something like that. He still had like 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks. So like, one thing that Cooper does, he can impact games and winning, doing a lot of things. And this team ultimately won the championship. And he was the camp MVP. So like, Coop was good. It just Cam outplayed him because Cam was more efficient. I think he only missed 3 shots. I think he was like 8 for 11 from the field.
Well, he didn't miss hardly any shots at Section 7. And 4, like, this dude was just dominant,
And I think this is common for him. He just shoots like 70% from the field. Like, he's just some nuts. And but like, you can tell Cooper, like, stuff he needs to work on, like the 3-point shooting, right? Could get better. Some of the physicality and stuff bothered him a little bit in that game, but not taking anything away from Cooper. He's one of the best players in the state, in the country. I mean, he deserves everything that he's gotten. But I did feel like this game, he just struggled some with the physicality and the shot. The 3-point shooting wasn't on, which we just kind of made it tough for him. But he can just impact games in so many other ways, and I like that he rebounded back and still got camp MVP. That just tells you how good of a player. He doesn't let bad games like
affect him,
ruin him. Like, and that's a bad game for his standards. Like, because we used to Cooper getting 40 points, 15 rebounds. So to go on, like, can't rank, like, who are my top 3 to 5 guys? I would go 5. I would say Cam. I would say Coop, just overall, just the whole day. Cam Boozer, and there's no particular order. Cam Boozer, Jaden Quaintance, 225. He was really good. He impacted a lot of games. His team made it to the championship game. He was blocking shots, rebounding, finishing around the rim, showed some mid-range shooting. He's young. I think he's young for his class at 225. Probably, I think he has the age of like a 226 kid. And he has long arms, plays hard. He's starting to turn the corner. He plays for that team. Yeah, he's turned the corner. I would say him, Floyd Badunga, because, I mean, I don't know if y'all saw the highlight of him. Like, if you haven't need to watch, like, he just dunked the shit out of somebody. And, like, he fell down. The dude fell down with him. Like, Flores, uber efficient, rebounds, dunks, everything. I know people kind of compare him to Oscar Sweetway from Kentucky, so I'm kind of looking at him in that type of prototype. And then I would say 5. I like Connie Roos. Connie Roos, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, from IMG. Was really good. I thought he was very efficient, big wing, can score. He's always been talented. This was probably the best I've seen him play in a minute, to be honest with you. He didn't have a great Scholastic year. He was solid, but I saw some of the flashes of what it could be in college, and he showed some pro upside.
Got it.
So that, from like, for what the NBA looks for wings. So not calling him a pro, but I'm just saying, like, you saw real consistency play and his versatility. So for me, he would be in my 5.
Great. Yeah, I know that's we'll look forward to see your camp rankings, and then we have some recaps on the ballislife.com. I did something where I talk about 55 kids that did better than the last time I saw them. Not necessarily the 55 best kids I saw, because I'm not including like the Boozers and a few other players that are obvious. Just guys that helped their recruiting, I thought, in the last couple of weeks. And then we'll see how they do in in the rest of July. But yeah, I was speaking to John Stovall a little bit about that, and if you again, the 19U United States lost, right? We know this class is not the greatest. We talk about 224. It's like the draft is not supposed to be so hot either, and then that means unless something changed, the 225 draft is not going to be that hot. Again, I'm not including there could be some European prospects that emerge that are terrific. We're speaking mostly of the American-born players. But then when you go to 225, I'll just say this, and I'll say it now. Again, it'll probably come out like I think Cooper's eventually going to end up in 224. I don't know about the Boozers because of the two of them, But let's just say for now, arguments purposes, Coop stays in 225. And you got him. You got Cole Pete, who was at Section 7. That's 3. Then you got Darren Peterson and Malik Thomas. Like, that's a pretty damn good 5. Maybe there's somebody that can be the 5th guy, but those guys are pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, we can say, like in any class, in any era, anytime, that 5 is pretty good. Like, so what do you think of them? And was Darren there, and was Malik Thomas there?
I know Darren was there. Darren was good. I would probably put Darren probably 6th or 7th on there. He was really good. I mean, you saw the scoring, and you know what? On 5th, Darius A Cuff. He'd probably be my 5th. I mean, he was uber productive. I got to put him in that 5. But like Darren was really good. That 225 class is good. I mean, that's a really, really good class, and those are one and dones. And that 226 NBA draft class would be what you're really looking at. But yeah, that class is great. Darren Peterson, Cam, Cole Pete, Coop, Malik. Like, you got guys like Darius who's really growing. He's becoming like a top 20 guy in that class. They're loaded. they're loaded, and what we're seeing out of the how the USA played, how the USA did, and everything. I think it's just a testament. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I ran a tournament this past weekend, and 15, 16, even in the state of Texas, like the 15, 16U championship, excited about. The 17U was like, kind of what it's not bad. Just this is what we're dealing with nationally. It's like that those classes aren't great.
Correct.
They don't excite you like that. So
No,
yeah,
you're right. And I think the last exciting class like that, where you're like, oh, there's a lot of good guys. Who's number 1? Who's going to be good in the pros? Is obviously the Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green group. Then it's like, these other classes are okay. So I think that's the next group that, regardless of how it plays out and who jumps up or whatnot, where you're like, wow, these guys are really that good. So that's kind of what I got out. I was talking to John Stovall, and we were just sitting there, and I was like, John, who's the best, like 5s? Not the best class, like just that has a really good top 5, not who, regardless of who number 1. We were going down it. We were just talking about the various classes. And he's like, Ron, whoever you talk about, like these Boozer guys, and those guys are just as good as those guys. I'm like, I'll go with you on that. That's fine. Like, especially watching Columbus win every game by 30, we're like, okay, no problem. They might be the number 1 team in the country. They might. That'd be pretty interesting if they beat. That's going to be the interesting thing, I think, of next season. Can they stay and beat the NIBC level teams?
Right.
I think we'll see a little bit of that at Border League, I imagine, in October in the fall. But I think that will be the thing. Like, basically, where does Cam Boozer go from here? If he was a National Player of the Year, does he get better and is even more dominant? Like, wow, you don't see that very often in high school, right? I guess,
right.
A high school, first of all, usually the high school player of the year goes off to college or whatever, goes off to the NBA, and now he's coming back. It's almost like, okay, where does he go from here? But he does seem to be showing that he's, like you said, Ani, efficient and like, I'm dominant. I'm not going to just rest and, I'm pretty good. I'm going to go to the NBA when, like, he's getting better. He's locked. Yeah. So that's great to see. And, I'm glad to be back with you guys. It's going to be a long 10 days. We had a long 10 days. I think the last 10 days were really long. I know you're just like, we're the last 10 days going. And we have the 4th of July coming up. We have a lot of things coming out now, the dog days of summer. Ani, I don't know if Chelsea mentioned it to you, or we talked, like, it got really hot here
Oh my God.
The last day, just the last, because it was beautiful, like in LA and June and May was like 70 degrees, no lot of sun. You know, it started getting a little warmer here in Vegas. Everybody's like, oh, Vegas is not even hot yet. Then it's like, okay. So July's first second came. It's like, yeah, Vegas is back to the 110. It's
Yeah.
I was at a wedding. Clark Francis, our previous guest on the pod, a couple of times, he had a wedding. Congrats to Clark. But yeah, I got off the plane and I was like, oh God, what is going on here? So it's gonna be a long 10 days and a long summer. So we appreciate everybody sticking with us. I think we're gonna wrap up now. But yeah, you know, we've been covering, you know, the Scholastic setting. We're in the midst of covering the grassroots setting, and then we're gonna cover the little bit of the NBA Summer League and the things that are associated with that. So we appreciate everybody staying with us on episode 165. We'll be back. Be careful. Everybody have a great 4th of July. You know, Ani, I'll say this, 2 years ago, a young prospect, I'm not going to say his name, obviously, because his name doesn't matter, but at 225, 2 or 3 years ago when he was 14 years old, he blew off his thumb playing with a firework. He's a pretty good player. You know, he's a pretty good player. He's going to be a D1 player, but he has, you know, it's noticeable. So be careful out there. Everybody be careful, you know, with your young ones and your family. Maybe go to a public fireworks show. Watch the
Don't get thrown off.
I feel really bad. You know, I heard about, somebody told me about it right away. They're like, so-and-so really hurt his hand. I was like, ow, you know. But he's a pretty good player. And he's going to end up overcoming his obstacle. But, yeah, everybody be safe out there. But for Chelsea Hopkins, Umana, I'm Ronnie Flores. We're going to get out of here and have a good 4th of July.
Bye, guys.